Imagine you're the most powerful man alive. You've conquered half the known world. Your soldiers have bled for you through frozen mountains and scorching deserts. They would die for you, and they have. But back home, 300 men in white togas have decided your time is up. They want you gone. They want you dead. And the law is on their side. What do? Julius Caesar looked at a cold, narrow river and made a choice that shattered a republic and built the greatest empire the world has ever seen. This is the story of how Rome stopped being a republic, and it started long before Caesar reached that river. For 400 years, Rome was governed by checks and balances. 2 consuls elected every year. No single man held too much power. It worked, for a while. But the Roman Republic was never a true democracy. It was an aristocracy dressed as one. A small class of elite families controlled the Senate, the courts, the land, and the money. Power passed between them like a family heirloom. By the 2nd century BC, the cracks showed. Veterans came home from years of war to find their farms sold and their families in poverty. The wealthy had bought everything while they were gone. The Gracchi brothers tried to fix it. Land reform, rights for the poor. The Senate had them killed. Tiberius Gracchus was beaten to death by a mob of senators in the streets of Rome in broad daylight. That was the moment the Republic signed its own death warrant. The rules only apply when convenient. When real power is threatened, violence wins. And once that lesson is learned, it cannot be unlearned. Into this broken world stepped 3 men. Crassus, the richest man in Rome, who ran a private fire brigade that negotiated property prices while buildings burned. Pompey, the greatest general alive, who cleared the Mediterranean of pirates in 3 months. And Caesar, brilliant, charming, drowning in debt. Sharp in a way that made people uneasy. The 3 cut a private deal, the first triumvirate. Pompey's glory, Crassus's money, Caesar's genius. Together, unstoppable. Caesar got Gaul, wild, unconquered lands north of the Alps. Most senators called it punishment. Caesar called it opportunity. 8 years of relentless warfare against fierce Celtic tribes. He crossed the Rhine. He invaded Britain twice. He besieged Vercingetorix at Alesia, building 2 walls simultaneously, one trapping the enemy inside, one holding off the relief army. He was besieging a fortress while being besieged himself. He won. 1 million dead, another million enslaved. And Caesar had built something more dangerous than an army, a legend. His veterans no longer thought of themselves as soldiers of Rome. They were Caesar's men. That distinction would matter. While Caesar was in Gaul, the triumvirate collapsed. Crassus invaded Parthia and walked into a disaster. At Carrhae, Parthian archers trapped his legions in open desert and destroyed them. Crassus was killed. His head was sent to the Parthian king as a trophy. Without him, Pompey joined the Senate, Caesar's enemies. They issued an ultimatum: disband your armies, return as a private citizen, or be declared an enemy of the state. As a private citizen, Caesar would face immediate prosecution. Without his army, he had no protection. He had one option, the one that could not be undone. January 49 BC, the Rubicon River, 30 feet of cold water. But that stream was the legal line. No Roman general could cross it with armed soldiers. To do so meant treason. Caesar stood on the northern bank for hours, weighing what he was about to do against everything Rome stood for. Then he crossed. The die is cast. The 13th Legion waded the river in the dark. Within 60 days, without a single major battle, Caesar held all of Italy. People opened their gates willingly. Pompey fled. The Senate scattered. The Republic had crossed a line it could never uncross. Caesar crushed Pompey at Pharsalus. Pompey fled to Egypt, where a young pharaoh had him killed and delivered his head to Caesar as a gift. Caesar wept. Pompey deserved better than that. In Egypt, Caesar met Cleopatra, brilliant and fearless. They became allies, and more. Caesar returned to Rome as master of the world. The Senate named him dictator for life. He reformed the calendar. He planned a massive Eastern campaign. Then the men he trusted most decided they'd seen enough. Their leader was Brutus, Caesar's friend, a man Caesar had pardoned after the Civil War and given power. Brutus was not a villain. He genuinely believed that Caesar's death would restore the Republic. He was completely wrong. March 15th, 44 BC. Caesar's wife begged him not to go to the Senate. He went anyway. 23 senators surrounded him. The first man grabbed his toga. Then the knives came out. 23 wounds. When Caesar saw Brutus among the killers, he spoke his last words. Et tu, Brute? You too, child. The conspirators walked out shouting about liberty. Rome exploded in fury. Antony's funeral speech turned the crowd into a mob. The conspirators fled. And for the last time, Rome tore itself apart. 3 sides, 3 men, 1 world. Antony, Caesar's powerful lieutenant. Octavian, Caesar's 18-year-old adopted son. Nobody took him seriously. That was their mistake. Where Caesar was magnetic and passionate, Octavian was cold, patient. He never moved until the moment was right. Together, Antony and Octavian crushed the conspirators at Philippi in 42 BC. Brutus died by his own hand. The Republic's last defenders were gone. Now only the 2 victors remained, and peace between them was impossible. Antony went east, to Cleopatra, to Egypt. He fell genuinely in love and handed Octavian the weapon he needed. Octavian declared that Antony had abandoned Rome and surrendered himself to a foreign queen. It worked. At Actium in 31 BC, the 2 fleets met. Cleopatra's ships broke formation. Antony abandoned his own flagship and followed her to Egypt. His fleet surrendered. His legions defected. Antony died in Cleopatra's arms. She refused to be paraded through Rome as a prisoner and died on her own terms. Egypt became a Roman province. Octavian stood alone. He was 32. He controlled every legion, every province, every treasury in the world. And he knew exactly what had killed Caesar. Not the knives, the word. King. Dictator. Caesar had moved too openly toward monarchy, and senators responded with steel. Octavian would not repeat that mistake. He went before the Senate and offered to give everything back. His armies, his provinces, returned to the Roman people. The Senate refused. Of course they did. He had arranged it that way. Instead, they gave him a new title. Not king, not dictator. Something that sounded humble, but carried the full weight of absolute power. Augustus, the sacred one. The Roman Empire had begun, not with a declaration or a coup, but with a performance of humility so perfect that even the audience half believed it. Augustus ruled for 44 years. He gave Rome the Pax Romana, 2 centuries of peace the ancient world had never known. When he died at 75, his last words were, "Did I play my part well?" He had. The Rubicon, the knives in the Senate, Actium, the quiet performance before an exhausted Senate. None of it was inevitable. At every moment, a different choice could have led to a different world. But they made the choices they made, and we live in the world those choices built. Every body called a Senate, that's Rome. Every election, every courthouse, every legal system built on the presumption of innocence, Rome is there. The Republic died, the Empire rose, and 2,000 years later, we are still living inside the story it started. The die was cast, and the world has never been the same.